everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to another episode of Patch Notes. I'm Mary. This is a pretty action-packed show for you guys today, and we're excited to talk to you about Dan's open letter. You're here to discuss the open letter. We have new ad guidelines. We did tweet about that from our support Twitter, but I think it's still good to talk about it. And we're going to be talking about some other stuff, plus Q&A, live Q&A with you guys. So thank you so much for joining us. And Dan, thank you for, where are you? Where in the world is Dan today? Where are you?
Well, right now I feel a little white right now because if you notice, my background is very blah. Okay, unlike
Yeah.
I know you're in the office because you have the wonderful pineapple and you have an interesting chair, whereas I have a flat white surface. I'm in Austin right now. Came down here for South by Southwest. I used to live here, so I have friends here, and I've been working remote and also spending some time with streamers down here. But I actually just flew in. I was in LA earlier today, and went out and met with some streamers last night. But so I'm sitting in an Airbnb right now with a nice flat white background.
Easy. You're easy to green screen out, and people can place you wherever they want. You guys can feel free
There
to
we
do that in
go.
chat.
Yes, that's what I should have done. I should have gotten a good green screen and been sitting on Mars with an announcement newsflash, newsflash. We beat Elon to Mars or something like that.
Yeah, it does have it has an iconic look to it. I'm also not in my usual setup. I'm at Twitch HQ in San Francisco for just ramping up for some fun meetings and things that we're going to be doing. Definitely like TwitchCon planning and the like. So I'm glad we were able to still get together and do this. It's very important that we get to talk to you guys directly, the community, and answer your questions live. We will be doing that, and we usually do it towards the end of the show. In case anyone is new around here, Patch Notes is our monthly show where we talk about important changes and releases. We try and do it in one stream, and we do it with Twitch staff. So you'll be hearing from Money Mike Minton about stuff that's going on with policy changes, anything like that will affect you, the community, streamers, etc. We want you guys to hear it from us live.
All right. And so remember, put your questions in. It's helpful if you put exclamation ask. We'll still grab them if not, but that way it jumps out at them to know, oh, this is a question, because they try to capture them, put them in a spreadsheet. There are often a lot of questions. We don't get to all of them, but we try to get to as many as we can. And I think today we should have a reasonable amount of time to try and answer questions.
I think we will. I think we'll have a lot of time. And we also, as we did last episode, which I loved, we got some questions from our partner Discord in advance, which is great. And so we'll answer those as well today for you. But to get started, something that you did recently, Dan, is you published an open letter in February, and it outlines a lot of what the community should expect from us in 2025. You did actually talk about it a little bit on Vamos, but as people probably know, Vamos is a Spanish-speaking show, so you really weren't able to address it to our English-speaking audience. So this is your time to do that. Tell us a little bit about some of the main points from your 2025 open letter.
Yeah, and I'll start. Yeah, we did talk about it on Vamos, but since that's all in Spanish, even though I don't speak Spanish, I suspect most of the people listening here did not catch that. But let me talk for a second about why we do it. Starting, I think this is the third one we published. I don't remember exactly, but we basically over the last few years been trying to make an effort to just be more forthright about some of the stuff we're working on, so that it's coming. You can give us feedback. We can be talking with it about it. Now this takes away the big reveal of, oh, we have this new thing. But we found it very helpful to kind of be more transparent, so you know what we're doing and what we're thinking about. We don't talk about everything. We don't talk about everything in detail because sometimes we're still refining lots of different things. But we try to spend a lot of time with the community to get thoughts. So that's the purpose of the open letter. So feel free to ask questions. And part of what I'm going to try to do here also is explain why we're doing some of what we've talked about. Okay, so the first area of content that I want to talk about are things we're doing to try and drive engagement on the platform and help you grow your audience, which obviously is the important part for all of you, as our ability to service you and engaging with your community is super important. Now, a big part of this, and one area where we have a fair amount of investment, is continuing to invest on the mobile platform. when we look at our user base right now, while a majority of the time is spent on web, the majority of users come to us from mobile. And there's really been this shift over time as more people are mobile. And in particular, younger users almost always are starting and finding Twitch on mobile. And it's really important for us to improve the mobile experience to help retain those viewers and help you retain those viewers. A huge part about Twitch is you maintaining that emotional connection with your community and keeping that community engaged with you. And so, and mobile is an important part of that, as is our work on clips and shorts and sharing content, because part of the idea is we want users coming back with more frequently to the mobile app when they have a little bit of time, that maintains their connection with you, that also ties into our strategy of helping you create more clips and share clips on third-party social media, because that also maintains that emotional attachment that your community has with you, so that as people get busy, which we see definitely happens with Twitch streamers, not streamers, viewers, they get busy, they don't come as regularly, and then sometimes they just lose the pattern of checking in and maintaining that connection with the community. So a big part of our effort is improving the mobile app. One thing that we've talked about a few times is we're pushing to develop vertical video for the mobile app. So the way this will work is you'll be able to use enhanced broadcasting to give us both a vertical and a horizontal source of your stream. That way, when somebody's on the phone and holding it vertically, we will have a vertical view of your content, and you will go ahead and be able to format that. If somebody wants to get to the horizontal, they'll still be able to, so they'll still be able to get the same experience. And this will be something that will require you to adopt enhanced broadcasting, and it adjusts how you stream. But I know I've received a lot of enthusiasm about that. I think it will really improve the mobile experience for a number of viewers, and I know there's a lot of enthusiasm about that. So that's going to be coming out in a few months. We're also going to continue to be working on overall performance of the mobile app. I think that's something we've made some changes on recently, but we want you to want it to load faster so you get to content quicker. And we need to keep working on the recommendations and how we can get the right content for you. And also the overall experience. We have some ideas around exploring the feed some with other types of content, because all of this is really an exploration, and all of this we're going to be doing through experimentation to try and figure out what really works for our user base. And one thing that is important as we work on this, we're still very clear that the foundation of Twitch is live, community-centered interaction. That while we will explore other types of content, we're all about live. So mobile is a big area of investment. Number two, I've already talked about this a little, is our investment in clips. We're going to talk some today about that, but this is going to be an ongoing process. One of the benefits of having both a vertical and a horizontal video is now when you make a clip, it will automatically, you'll have a good version of both. Right now, which I'll talk about a little, we had problems because sometimes now as you create a vertical clip, it may not be in frame because the editing may be a little off. And this will make sure that you, for everything you do on the stream, you have a good version of a vertical video. And that will help you as you create content for third-party social media. I will tell you the world that I would like to eventually be in. And I know I've said this to many streamers, and I think we have a number of pieces we have to get get there, is that when you're done streaming, it would be nice if within 10 minutes you could find 3 to 5 good moments from your stream that you thought best represented that stream, so that you can share them with your community that may have missed your stream. In particular, I think stories is good for that. That way your community can use that to catch up and understand what they missed in your stream and maintain that connection. But at least this is my experience in talking to many streamers. If you don't do it right when you're done streaming, the chances you're going to do it before you stream tomorrow are just really small. And it needs to be where you can just swipe on your mobile phone and find it. The other thing I've experienced, and I've talked to many streamers, when you're done streaming for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, you want to get up out of your chair and move around. You don't want to sit in your chair and sit there and edit clips right away. And of course, bigger streamers have editors that can help them, but for most streamers, you don't. So number 2 is continuing to work on clips. And then number three is continuing to try and support and answer some of the requests we have around collaboration. In particular, we're working on shared hype trains for Stream Together. I've heard a lot of good feedback in terms of shared chat and shared view count, and being able to help you monetize. The thing that worked well with shared chat was it was one community together, and we need to bring that together for hype trains. So it's one hype train, and then we also are going to make it so that it's easy to initiate a Stream Together session for mobile, so that way you can use shared chat when you're IRL streaming, which I know has been a real pain point for a lot of streamers. They love shared chat, but they want to be able to use it while they're doing IRL streaming. So those are three of the areas of investment around engagement.
I think that there's a lot there to unpack, and it's all referenced in quite a long letter. I think we can probably drop the link in chat as well, just so that it's easy for people to follow along for anyone who might have missed it. But there's a lot that we're doing to update. One of the other major things that you talked about is monetization. And something that I saw a lot of chatter on online, Dan, was you can now monetize from your very first stream, not just
Mm-hmm.
affiliates. This
Mm-hmm.
caused a lot of conversation online, and there's always the talking point of like, hey, then why get affiliate? So why did you make this change? But also, what do you have to say, especially as people are discussing, the value of affiliate and partner as we evolve?
Yeah. So, and first of all, to be clear, nothing's happening to the affiliate program. Affiliate program exists
Mm-mm.
as is. Um, uh, One thing that people often don't realize is, if you remember back, we used to have that you could only monetize if you were a partner. And of course, there are tons of people that were streaming. It's like, oh, but we want to monetize. And then we added affiliate. Um, when you go back then, one of the reasons we had to set a bar for affiliate was uh, to help us in terms of detecting fraud and preventing fraud and all that, because that's obviously something we have to continually work on. Um, we've gotten better at that. Okay. And in a perfect world, when you start streaming, I mean, part of the Twitch experience is uploading emotes and subscribing and experiencing all of what Twitch is. And part of that are our subscription products and those features. And you also have people that come over from other platforms that want to start monetizing right away. So we want to make it easier for people to, once they start streaming, they're going to monetize right away. We still have to make sure we prevent fraud, which is one reason why to take out the money, you're going to still need to earn affiliate. Now, earning affiliate is not particularly hard. We're also looking at the criteria for affiliate, because I think there are a few areas that we've learned from the updating to the partner criteria, where sometimes streaming more frequently can work against you in affiliate if you only have 2 viewers, because you're trying to keep your ACCV at 3. And so we're going to make that a little more clear and objective in terms of a fixed number of streams that you need to be at 3 ACCV, which will make it a little more deterministic for people as they try to reach affiliate. But we're keeping the affiliate program as is, okay? And so it's still an important milestone. And one reason it's important too is when you start streaming, it gives you something to shoot for, to just get you keep going. Because that first week, you kind of need to show up again, because a big part of streaming is that consistency and not just dabbling every now and then. So one of the benefits of the affiliate criteria is it gets you to show up, get at least a few people watching you. And so that's going to stay the same. But we do feel it's very valuable for us to make it easy for as many people as possible to monetize.
Yeah, I also think that as we added these titles, and I also remember the time when we had partner and we added affiliate, partners were like, then why hit partner, right? Like we're taking away some of the value of partner. So every time we kind of make these changes, sometimes people who have worked really hard and earned affiliate or earned partner will be like, but you're making it easier. Um, yes, we are kind of streamlining it so that people feel like they can start and learn and grow on Twitch easier. That is the point. But there's still a lot of value in the words of affiliate and partner, and they're absolutely used, especially for sponsorships. Saying that you're
Mm-hmm.
Twitch affiliate or saying that you're Twitch partner helps a long way into getting sponsorships and getting your name in the door for some of these companies. So it's still a really valuable title in itself. But then there's always still like things that will be available to partner and affiliate as they come in. But I mean, I think ultimately the ability, if you are interested in making revenue from your very first stream, is a win, generally speaking, and hopefully isn't negative for either affiliate or partner.
Yeah, and part of this too, I'll touch on this because I think one of the things that Twitch, which has already been happening, but I think we want it to keep happening. When you go back in time, Twitch was sort of almost its own little island in social media where the people who streamed on Twitch, that's primarily what they did, the people who watched Twitch, when you go way back in time. Um, and it's certainly the case that often Twitch streamers, Twitch was the primary means of engaging their community. The social media landscape is very complex and diverse now with lots of creators. And more, while obviously those people that are fully dedicated to streaming full time on Twitch, we love, we spend a lot of time with them. They're a foundation of our platform. We'd like every creator to spend time streaming on Twitch, right? Because if you're a creator, there's something magical about that live experience. I know this week, actually, I was talking with the son of a friend of mine who's a TikTok creator who has like 1 million followers, and he's very interested in live streaming, and he's done it some on TikTok, but he's asking me a bunch of questions about Twitch. And I think more and more as we get more creators to use Twitch as part of their creative expression, that helps all of us because it drives more viewers as their community comes and follows them. So this makes it easier for creators of all types to show up at Twitch and start monetizing right away.
Great. So that kind of answers a lot of those. And if you have additional questions about the changes that we've made regarding monetization, please throw them in chat so that we can catch them, and then we'll answer them towards the end of the show. In addition to what we just talked about, there's also fueling more creator sponsorships, promotional events. Can you talk a little bit about that area of just trying to encourage creators to make more money?
Yeah, so let's talk about, as you know, we just made an update so that you can give us information to helping sponsors. In fact, Mike's going to talk about that later. So I'm not going to go
Mhm.
into too much detail there because Mike will be available for questions and he's going to
No
talk about that
spoils.
update. No spoilers, but that's in general. We've in general been having this investment to try and make sponsorships work better, in particular for kind of mid-tier creators, so that we have a platform that can help them find other sources of revenue. We also are going to be investing in more frequent promotional events. Mike's going to talk a little bit about that later, but in general, we have found discounts have been an effective way of driving more revenue for you. And as opposed to just having one or two big site-wide things, we want to be able to try it at different points because, like anyone who's worked in retail and other areas, a big part of discounts is they need to be situational. And eventually, we even want to be able to support you being able to determine when you want to run a discount for a limited time on your channel so that it can sync with your schedule. So we're working on that. And then finally, we're working on to try and create some more interactive features, especially thinking about mobile, that will help the community engage by giving small amounts of money. A big thing we need to do more of is get more people supporting creators with smaller amounts of money. And to do that, we have to make it fun for the community to do this. And I won't go into a ton of detail on this, but we're exploring various different ways to try and get people, one can almost think of it as an evolution of cheering, but with a more community orientation to it, because cheering is a very individual act where you are giving, and let's make it kind of like the way, Hype Train has been very effective because the community is participating. And that's one thing that I've learned. If I look at the features that in general work for us, the ones that usually work are ones that involve the community. Shared chat is an example of that. It brought the communities together. Hype Train is an example of that. Gift subs is an example of that. All of these are examples of where the community is the one acting. And so I think we're looking at how we can use bits where the community is the one acting.
And finally, one of the last components of this letter is usually about community, expanding some community efforts like guilds and ambassadors. I can talk a little bit more in depth about this because the community team on Twitch works really hard to make sure that the ambassador program and the spaces like our guilds are highly coveted and valuable to creators, and we've seen such an incredible increase. It's really heartwarming to see the love for these spaces. So we're expanding them. We talked a bit about this last year, but just to add a bit more specificity to it, we're expanding guilds to include more languages. You might have seen this during International Women's Day. We released a new we reopened our ability for you to apply, and we did so in additional languages. That way, we're actually encouraging people who speak Spanish, Portuguese to actually apply, and that also gives us a gauge. For me, it's hard to know literally like how many languages and in which ways we want to invest in guilds, but I can now know that if I get hundreds of people who are applying to our women's guild in Spanish, right? And so now we know where we want to really expand and put a lot of that energy. So thank you for applying. We've gotten an outrageous influx of applications. Again, so awesome. So I just wanted to also just please ask for your patience as we pour through all of those applications and start slowly inviting you into the guilds in your selective languages. It's awesome. We're also doubling our ambassador count into 2025. Now, there was a bit of I saw some chatter online that it felt like maybe we accidentally misconstrued what that meant. We have about just over 180 ambassadors. These are global. Some of them are in North America. They could be in any country or region. When I say we're doubling our ambassador count in 2025, I mean we usually onboard like 10 to 15 ambassadors annually. We're doubling that. So we're trying to go for like 30 to 40 ambassadors this year. If I tried to onboard 180 ambassadors this year, I would die. And they all get a free trip to TwitchCon as well because they're an ambassador for the con and for Twitch itself. So sorry if that was not very clear, but we're going to double the ambassador count for 2025. And our hope is that if people really enjoy this and they love seeing more ambassadors, that we can continue increasing the amount of ambassadors that we onboard every year. That is my intention. And you'll also note that we're just kind of really pushing expanded ambassadors in regions that I feel like we need to have more ambassadors in, like the LATAM region. It's really important that we have ambassadors that represent the diverse reflection of our community. So that is something we're really heavily seeking this year. That's it for the
And
community
one,
piece. And I think go ahead, Dan.
yeah, I was just going to say one thing because I know it's always a question, and one of the challenges is there's so many people that put in great applications to be an ambassador, and
Yeah.
it's probably the case that for every ambassador that we're able to let in, there are 5 or 10 ambassadors that have, what I will call is equivalent applications. Okay, and so understand it's just something that it is not that for whatever reason the people being chosen are somehow better suited than you. Sometimes it's just a process where you're looking to get a diverse representation of different types of creators, both in terms of the content, reach, and language. And so I know it is disappointing because many people come up and express disappointment if they create an application and they want to know, well, what wasn't there? And the answer is often everything was there. It's just we have a limited number of slots. So the other thing I was going to say is, and this relates to the guilds and also the creator clubs. When I talked about the things that really work on Twitch or the things that involve community, the guilds are one of the things that have really worked, as have the creator clubs, because both of them are creating community among streamers. Because of course, all of you create communities in your channel, but a huge part of Twitch is that streamer community. And we're going to keep looking at ways to do that because it helps you feel a sense of belonging with other streamers. I think it's one of Twitch's real advantages. As Mary said, we're going to be expanding the Unity guilds globally. We're going to continue to invest in creator clubs, and we're going to look at other ways we can be using Discord and other things to reach more people, to help them find people with shared identity, shared interest, shared affinity. So that's something that we're going to keep always thinking about. And in fact, one of the things, and this wasn't in the letter because we're just now thinking about it, for example, is we're also thinking about what we can do in terms of a revamp of the Teams product. And we're looking at that as a possibility, not for sure yet. In part, not so much as a user-facing feature, but again, something that helps streamers that collaborate together and want to work together form kind of groups with shared interests and shared affinities that then they can use. And that may be one way that we help people self-form and create, this is one thing that happens uh, with the meetups, Mary, which you run, is that you create these interesting mixtures of identity and all together. And I think we would love to be able to support more of that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, Dan. And I think that that is actually holistically how we look at ways that you, the community, find each other. It's generally, but can be many things, but we've kind of bucketed it into three different ways. There's location, right? Like we're both from Portland, Oregon. So how nice is that we can meet in Portland and game together? Then it's interest based. Oh, we're both IRL streamers in Portland. Well, then we should both IRL stream in Portland together. That would be so cool. And then the third one is identity based. Oh, wow, we're both women and we both really like streaming IRL. And like, how cool is that, right? And so you can have these different ways that you have connections with people and find these moments where you feel like you're connected to someone, you have something to bond over. So we definitely think about lots of ways that you make connections and appreciate each other. But those are three that we're obviously invested in, and we will continue to find more because it's important that you can find your people. And we've also found that streaming with other people, networking with other people, and just basically being around other people that you like helps you grow. That is just like a statistical fact that when you're like constantly streaming with each other, when you're bonding with each other, when you're finding discords and hanging out with each other, that helps your growth. So it's good. That's a good place to invest. Dan, anything else
Yeah.
just to round out
Yeah,
the open letter before we move on to ads?
I had two things I wanted to mention before moving on to ads. Um,
Mm-hmm.
One thing is we're going to continue. One thing that's important as we continue to grow and expand Twitch, and I wanted to explain how we think about the evolution of Twitch with gaming and other types of content on Twitch, because I know that's always an important thing for our community. And Twitch, the foundation of Twitch is always going to come from gaming, and gaming is always going to be the center of a lot of what happens on Twitch. But it turns out gamers have a lot of interests. Gamers love music. They love to watch people out in the real world. And the foundation of Twitch is not as much gaming as it is community. And when we started, it just so happens that people were gaming, but Twitch has always been a talk platform and a platform where people find belonging. And so we need to continue to find ways to support a diverse range of creators that want to express themselves, whether that's cooking, whether that's IRL, whether that's music, whether that's being a maker, whatever it is. Okay. And
VTubing.
that's one
Yeah.
thing VTubing, that's one thing that we're going to keep doing, is thinking about. And that's also going to be important for helping to grow Twitch, because that's one way you keep, even with our gamers, you give them a diverse range of content that allows them to express many aspects of their personality. And so I think that's one thing we're going to continue to find ways. Creator clubs do that. On some other features, we'll do that. So before we jump off to monetization, I want to finish up with an area that's important, is what we do for safety, because that's a critical thing. We're going to keep working on improving safety tools, as we always do. I'm excited to say, finally, I think I'm told, I think I'm going to get in trouble here if it's not, but before TwitchCon EU, mod view for Android should be out. Crossing my fingers.
I don't want you to get in trouble, but like we're working on it, and I actually think we have a really good benefit for our mods coming soon that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. It's just not ready yet, but definitely more on mod view soon for sure.
Yes, but mod view and Android, because that's the one question I always get at Pat's Notes is, when are you going to get it? And as everyone who's watched this knows, I'm an Android user.
Yeah.
We're also going to be evolving our enforcement system so that our enforcements align with where the offense was. So right now, if you have an enforcement and you're suspended for a period of time, you can't log in or anything. And now it's going to be, if it occurs while you're streaming, you'll be limited in terms of your ability to stream. If it does while you're chatting, you'll be limited in your ability to chat. But it doesn't mean if you're a streamer, you can't get in and look at your dashboard and get data about your streams and download your VODs and other things, which I think will be good, because they get a 1 day or a 3 day, and now they can't even get in to like edit their VODs or something like that. And so that's something we're working on to make it align with what the offense was.
Great. And for anyone who really likes these types of updates with the open letter, good news, there will be something in the very same similar vein of that. It's our keynote, which usually happens at each TwitchCon. So there'll be lots of really good updates coming out for the TwitchCon EU keynote, and we'll probably be doing the exact same thing we usually do in San Diego as well. So there'll be lots more updates from Dan and the company that you'll get to enjoy during those moments. But hopefully the open letter was helpful for you and you got a lot out of it. And I appreciate you writing it, Dan.
Right.
Now, I do want to get to our main
Let's go.
content today because it's definitely of interest for the community. So we introduced today, it's not today we introduced it, but it's not new. I think it's just important that we cover advertiser-friendly content guidelines and an ads policy change for suspended streamers. So I think to get the details, we should definitely bring in the guy who's got all of the details for this, Mike Minton. So please welcome Mike back to Patch Notes. Hey, Minton.
Awesome. Well, hi, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Always a privilege to be invited to this award-winning show with an esteemed host like yourself.
Yeah. What award? You're gonna have to make me like break into the Webbies and steal one because I don't think we're winning anything.
Webbies, Emmys. Is there a streamer award category? We should be up for.
Yeah, Mary, are you and I doing a podcast sometime soon? It seems like everybody does podcasts. I feel left out.
I have a podcast. I have a podcast. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. Shout out to Fire Escape Cast. We cover video games every other week. Yeah, I do.
Cool.
I'm in it.
She's never asked me to be on her podcast. Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
I can't believe this. Okay.
All right. Let's get to
there's a lot going on here.
Okay, Mike. Go ahead and give us the basics. Tell us about the guidelines. Is this a change? What's new, if anything?
Yeah, so the advertiser-friendly content guidelines are built on top of or providing more clarity around how content classification labels impact your ability to earn revenue via ads. Content classification labels are not new. They've been around since June of 2023. We built that system to really solve for two critical things. One is help viewers avoid certain types of content that they may not want to see on the site, and importantly, help advertisers control where their ads are going to run. Now, the system's working well. We've obviously spent a lot of time with streamers, helping them understand what needs to be labeled, why it needs to be labeled, etc. But we continue to get questions on like, well, how does this impact my ability to earn ad revenue? So we launched the advertiser-friendly content guidelines today, which are intended to provide a little more specificity around exactly how and which CCLs impact your ad revenue. But it's not a change. This is really just providing more clarity on what's been working here for the last year and a half or so. I think it's useful to talk specifics. So advertisers have preferences, especially a lot of what the advertisers on our service, they're what we'd call brand advertisers. They're trying to get their message out about their brand, their values, and the products that they have to offer. And in these cases, they're very specific about the types of content that they want to avoid, sensitive content. As two examples where most brands that advertise on Twitch at this point will generally avoid sexually themed content and gambling content. They have to opt in to say, hey, I want to run my ads on that content. Now, there's some advertisers that want to run ads there, but most streamers that are creating that type of content, when they're creating that type of content, that's an important clarification as well. This system is based on the content you're streaming at that time. So for example, if you were streaming gambling content on Monday, sexually themed content on Tuesday, but Wednesday you're streaming Minecraft, your ad revenue will be based on what you're streaming at that time. But if you're streaming sexually themed content or gambling content, you'll usually receive very little ad revenue as a consequence of streaming that type of content. Now, hyper-partisan political speech is another type of content most advertisers want to avoid. And honestly, this is where our current CCL label coverage is not ideal for most streamers. We only have one label. If you're streaming any type of political content, whether it's informational and balanced, or whether it's hyper-partisan taking a position on a very specific issue, we only have one label. We know that's not ideal, and we're working to change that in the coming months. So that's kind of the as it sits today, that's the content that most advertisers will generally avoid. Now, there's other types of content that we require labels for. If you're going to use excessive profanity, if you're going to drink on stream and drink in excess on stream, which is an important part, you're certainly able to have a beverage without requiring a label specifically. But the point is, if you're using these other type of labels, like profanity, drugs and alcohol is a good one, it can impact your ad revenue a bit. That will vary, and a bit, it means a relatively small amount in the grand scheme of things. If you were streaming with the label or without the label, you're not going to see a huge difference in terms of the amount of your potential ad revenue. And that's because most advertisers that are very comfortable with Twitch are also very comfortable with this type of content. And they understand that they want to get their message out to the broadest possible audience. That's a trade-off they're willing to take in terms of getting their message out to the most amount of viewers that might be interested.
All right.
Mature games.
Mature games. Talk about mature games, Mike.
Yeah, that one, it's a little bit different than the other CCL labels. It's different because we automatically apply it based on the game that you're streaming, based on the category that you're in. And for most games, it really doesn't impact your ad revenue at all. However, there are some mature games, and I'll refer to them as, one example would be red blood shooters. What does that mean, Mike? Well, a red blood shooter is going to be a game like CSGO or Call of Duty Black Ops 6, where you actually see blood and gore on the stream, and it's noted by what's called ESRB content descriptors. So if you ever see, when you buy a game, especially in the US, you'll see an ESRB rating, and there will be content descriptors that go with it. So if you see content descriptors like blood and intense violence, another good example, going to the other side of things, strong sexual content. So if you have a mature game that has the strong sexual content descriptor, like Grand Theft Auto 5, there are some advertisers that will exclude those from their campaigns. And that will, have an impact in terms of your potential to earn the maximum amount of revenue if you're streaming that type of content. But that's not the only factor. And that's the other thing that's really important to understand how ads work. Obviously, your audience size is really important, as is your location of your audience. Advertisers buy by location. They're typically buying a US viewer or a German viewer. So if your audience is made up primarily outside of the major markets where advertisers are buying ads, that will impact your ad monetization potential a lot more than the content that you're streaming.
Yeah. In fact, I think whenever a streamer reaches out and kind of says, oh, this person's the same size and they make more ads revenue, I know whenever I look into it, usually it's because you have a disproportionate number of streamers from some countries where there's a small number of ads, and that is more often than not the dominant factor for variability across streamers.
One thing I just wanted to tap on here too is whether or not this is standardized or something that you can expect across other types of services. A lot of content creators are like, is this invented? Is this new for us? Or is this something that's more standardized?
Yeah, it is quite standard. Almost every user-generated content platform has some form of these guidelines, some form of these content descriptors and labels that are used both, again, to serve the viewer need of the type of content that they want to recommend or they want to see, and then to serve the advertiser need of avoiding sensitive content for their brand suitability standards. Every brand has a different set, and it's not a universal set. And that's the thing to say. You can talk to, brand A is very comfortable with what I'll describe as edgy content. They're willing to lean in because they know that they can only reach this audience in a very specific place and a very specific type of content. There are other brands that are very, very, very specific and are really trying to avoid any type of sensitive content. So it's a spectrum. There's no universal truth here. And that's why these labels are so important, because we can match the brand suitability requirements with the right type of content that brand's comfortable with.
All right. So, Mike, we want to get to some of the monetization updates you have. So why don't you quickly just summarize, because I for most of the people listening, I don't think this is a big factor, but what happens following suspension for a limited number of offenses? And let's be quick about it, because I think you have a lot of other things we want to get to, and we want to get to questions.
All right. Yes. As Dan said, this is every time we, get on a stage like this and talk about something that affects a really small number of streamers, We want to make sure we're very clear. This impacts a very, very, very small percent of streamers, 99+% of the streamers watching and listening today. This does not impact you. But for those streamers that are suspended for 2 weeks or longer, generally, for violations like we've been talking about, sexual content, nudity, significantly harmful behavior like targeted hateful conduct, when you return from suspension, your ad monetization is going to be limited for a period proportional to your suspension, about half. So for example, you get 14 days for hateful conduct. When you return, you won't have ads on your channel for 7 days. And this is to ensure that you're complying with community guidelines before we put ads back on your channel. And again, that's in the best interest of brands to prevent that from happening. If it happens, if you receive a suspension, we're going to tell you how you're impacted, when the restriction will end. You'll be able to see it in the appeal portal. If you do appeal and you're successful in your appeal, the ads eligibility will come back. And then related to this, if you're indefinitely suspended for whatever reason, when you come back, and again, depending on the severity of the offense, we'll remove ads for an appropriate amount of time, up to say 6 months or so. So we're doing this again. Just why are we doing this? Meet the needs of advertisers. We're able to bring more advertisers to Twitch, and that ultimately helps more streamers earn more money over time.
All right, Mike. So now you get to get some of the updates. You got one in particular that's coming up really soon. Why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, well, Dan talked about discounts earlier. We are working on these. So we have one launching tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and that'll run through 3/31, which will offer 35% off all Tier 1 gift sub bundles of 5 or more. And we do these to help streamers make more money. But if you don't want to participate, you're now able to opt out of these type of discounts.
I actually find that really interesting, and I saw a lot of chatter online of people being like, why would I do that, or why did you offer that? So I just want to make sure I'm capturing that of like, why did you give creators the ability to opt out of discounts?
Yep. So important to understand that unlike September, every other discount is shared between the streamer and Twitch. So if, for example, the discount price, basically we compute your net revenue share, if you're at 50, 60, 70, wherever you may be in Partner Plus, et cetera, is computed from the discounted price. And we share that with you. Now, some streamers say, I don't want that. I don't want you to make that decision on my behalf, even though we're confident, because we look at thousands and millions of transactions at this point, we understand how discounts work and how they drive additional revenue to streamers. If you don't want to participate in that, for whatever reason, you can opt out of it. Say, hey, no, I don't want you to discount my sub switch. Cool. Happy to give you that control. And then I've also heard some good other feedback from streamers along the lines of, hey, I'm already doing something special for these generous gifters. So if you're doing it, you're diminishing the value of what I'm doing. Okay. Reasonable. If you don't want us to discount subs in your channel, no problem. You now can go into your dashboard and turn that off.
Great. All right. So Mike, I think we're going to talk some about sponsorships, which I know is an area that a lot of people are interested in. So why don't you share what's been happening there?
Yeah, 2 universal truths that I've heard from streamers is almost every streamer wants more access to sponsorships. And as you grow, the second truth is sponsorships become even more important in terms of making a living doing what you love. So we did launch creator profiles recently. Huge success in terms of streamers coming in and filling out their profiles. We also got some good feedback in terms of, hey, Twitch, there's some things we think you could do better. Let us decide what we want to highlight, etc. But what a creator profile does is it gives two purposes. One is for you as a streamer, you can export that and take that and give it to a brand that you're talking to directly, or your agent or your business manager, whatever it may be. You can just share it with them. Here's my audience. Here's my interest. Here's the content I stream. And it's a great kind of thing you can use without us if you want. But the other thing, honestly, what we're doing is we're taking that information and helping as we're going out talking to brands and finding brands that are interested in doing activations with streamers. We're able to showcase you and bring those sponsorships to you as well. So that's now live, and really seeing tons and tons of streamers, both affiliates and partners, can now fill out their profiles, and it's going quite well. We've had more than 10,000 streamers already set up their profile. We're going to continue to invest in this, and again, very focused on bringing new opportunities to you, both ones that we're out with the sales team out there talking to brands every day. And then we did a partnership with Stream Elements. So Stream Elements sponsorship opportunities are now also available right in the dashboard. And, again, we're trying to make sure that wherever you are in the world and whatever size streamer you are, that we can find potential brand partnership opportunities for you.
Very exciting. We're really looking forward to seeing just the additional brands that can get involved with streamers and the potential there. So really looking forward to seeing the fruits from that labor, Mike. So really cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
I
Good to see you.
think that, Dan, did you have anything else that you wanted to add regarding sponsorships?
Nope,
Okay.
and we'll have Mike come
Mike,
back when we get to questions.
we'll have you come back for Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you guys had questions for Minton, throw them in chat now because we categorize them and put them all in there so we can answer them for you guys at the end of the show. He will be back very soon. Something we want to address is fixing the clips experience on mobile based on feedback that we've heard from all of you. When we updated clip creation flow, that's hard to say really fast, clip creation flow last year, we made it so portrait clip was auto-generated. You actually talked about this in your open letter conversation earlier, Dan, so I don't want to rehash it too much, but it created a funky viewing experience for clips that weren't properly edited. So what are we doing now to are we receiving this feedback and what are we doing with it?
Yeah, so automatically generating a portrait clip has been very beneficial most of the time. I find that actually the default works, pretty well, but not always. And so sometimes the framing isn't right and they didn't edit it. This was frustrating. So to help with this, we've added a button that lets you switch between portrait and landscape for clips that have edited portrait versions. That way, if for any reason it is not a good version, you can get to the original, or you may just prefer the landscape version either. So you can get back and forth. The button is rolling out on mobile surfaces this week. I know it's already live on my Android phone, so many of you probably already have it. We've also made it so that clips will play in landscape or vertical depending upon your phone's orientation. And one thing, it's unlike other clip services, the feed is always in portrait. So clicking the button will show the 16:9 version of the clip, but he's still with the portrait view. So, yep. So those are the changes we've done there.
Very great. It's great to see some of these updates, and there's more coming. We're always going to continue to update clips. So appreciate all of your feedback of ways that will make it more seamless and easier for you to make and share your clips. So more to come, but a great update. The other thing we wanted to talk about was sub feeds in mobile live feed. We recently rolled out sub feeds in the mobile live feed to 100% of users after experimenting for a few months. Sub feeds are feeds within your mobile feed based on categories and browsable collections. Viewers will see a personalized mix of sub feeds as pills at the top of their feed based on their watch history and the algorithm. Clicking on the sub feeds will filter their feed to only show live streams from that category or collection.
Yep. So you can click into VTuber subfeed or IRL or a game that you watch a lot to filter your live feed just for that area. And then you just tap all to go back to the main feed. We've seen good results. The reason we launched this because people that in general filtered, they tended to find stuff more quickly because they were expressing their interest. So it's a useful feature. I'm glad to have it out there.
Awesome. And with that, we are ready to get into Q&A. So we're going to welcome back Minton. It's funny because I feel like we just said goodbye. Get back in here, Mike.
Wow.
I feel like you should just be on the whole show. I'm going to do my best.
We really missed you, Mike. We really missed you.
We did. And so did chat. Glad to have you back, Mike. I'm going to start going through some of these questions. Some of these will probably be more specific to you, Mike, and some of them will be for Dan, but we'll try and get through as many of your questions as possible. So the first one is from Bobo Levro. So folks getting access to uploading emotes immediately or only after affiliate? Can you explain when you get emotes?
Yeah, our current thinking on this is, yes, you will be able to upload immediately. So once you go through the onboarding process for this monetization eligibility, like when you say, hey, I want to monetize, I want to get access to subs. Once you complete that process, you will be able to upload emotes for your subs. Because let's be honest, what's a sub without emotes? Not real useful, or not as fun as a sub with emotes. Now, I will say we are thinking that until you reach affiliate, those will be limited to your channel. So you would not be able to go through the process and use these emotes all over Twitch. We would maintain that as an affiliate level feature. So that's our current thinking. That may change, but yes, you'll be able to upload emotes and use them on your channel.
Cool. And
All
just
right.
as we have right now, there's always like additional advantages when you do hit affiliate and you do hit partner where you get more slots, etc. So there'll still be benefits for hitting those milestones as you get them. This next question is also for you, Mike. It comes from Teal Shark. What qualifies a brand to advertise on Twitch? What are the standards for, or is it just money?
It is absolutely not just money. It is a policy based on the type of product that you're offering. I actually would say it is mostly the Amazon ads policy. So that means if these advertisers are eligible to advertise on Prime Video and other Amazon related properties are eligible on Twitch. But we're very specific. For example, we don't accept crypto gambling. We don't accept political advertisements. So there's a whole host of restrictions that we have to ensure that the ads that are on Twitch are appropriate for the Twitch audience in our content and our community guidelines.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Teal Shark. This next one comes from Yuchi. Does Twitch have any plans to implement protection for streamers who are maliciously gifted subs and then the gifter purposefully refunds all of them? And not just a few subs, there's cases where it's like a lot of subs. And is there any type of protection that can be enforced to protect streamers who are getting griefed in this very specific way?
Yeah, first, thanks for the question. I'm sorry this happened to you, if it did happen to you or one of your friends. It's not something we want to happen. So there's a couple things. We do have refund abuse things in place to prevent viewers from repeatedly doing this. Now, based on your question here, I'm going to go back and make sure that those are actually working right. We have the right level of thresholds there in terms of detecting and then ultimately banning and preventing these users from doing this behavior. The other thing that I've seen, because I've responded to a few anecdotes that have been raised to me via social media, etc., is sometimes we think the streamer is involved in a way that causes the streamer to get actioned for abuse. So we're also making sure that we're not seeing any type of this, impacting a streamer in a negative way beyond just the refund itself.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Mike, for that answer.
Right.
This
Lots
next
of
one
questions
comes
for
from.
Mike here.
Good.
Excellent too.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, it's great. I'm glad. I'm glad that Mike is here to answer all of them. And the good thing too here is like, when we're talking about money a lot in an episode, I expect a lot of these questions will be very specific about, monetization, fraud, or anything that impacts a wallet. So it's good that you're here. This next one's from Mop Garden. I've noticed that hype trains have been randomly popping up out of nowhere when nothing is going on. Sometimes it can hurt channels because now there's hype trains and maybe there's like less incentive to be involved because it's just happening randomly. So I guess the question is are these here for good? What purpose do they serve? What's going on with hype trains, Minton?
Yeah, good question. Very, very. I love getting questions on people that notice things happening that are happening relatively small scale, but still happening. So yes, we are doing experimentation on hype train triggers. Are there other signals we can use to trigger a hype train besides just gift X or cheer Y bits? Now, they're not random. They may feel random, but they're certainly not intended to be random. They're based on things like chat activity or other, types of things that we may see happening in a channel. Now, we are very early. This is something that we may or may not roll out at some level of scale. It's an experiment, as I said. Based on this feedback, and if we see other feedback like this consistently, this may be the type of thing where we just give you a toggle to say, I do not want to participate in hype train optimization or whatever label we might put to it. Again, we're doing these things, and this is what the experiment is actually, the early results are showing, is they actually work quite well in helping streamers make more money. Now, every time I say something like that, there's not a universal truth. Every channel can have a different experience. You may have a celebration specific to hype trains that works well for you, and this may get in the way of that. Okay, cool. We're happy to maybe give you a toggle and let you opt out of that optimization in a way that lets you keep doing what you're doing. But we'll have more to say on this. I appreciate the feedback, and it's always good in terms of getting both the quantitative data from the experiment as well as the feedback from streamers on how it's impacting them and their channel.
Thanks for the question. I'm gonna jump to Griffin. With the policy change, should we expect a mass unbanning or for permanently banned streamers? That's a spicy question.
Yeah, well, actually, I'll go ahead and answer that. We've had a policy around applying for reinstatement for some time now, and we've worked especially over the last year, to make that very clear. So indefinitely suspended streamers have been able to apply for reinstatement. It's usually 6 months after the suspension, or up to 2 years. It depends upon the severity of the suspension in terms of when it's granted. And I will note, this person is probably referring to not the change we just announced, but there were some changes we announced a few weeks ago about strike expiration. And we did go through, and for those streamers that over the last 6 months that would not have been suspended if not for the strike expiration, with the new strike expiration policy, we did go ahead and unban them. Anyone that was more than 6 months, they were already eligible to apply for reinstatement. So our team looks at that. If this is something that affects you, please apply for reinstatement. It is indefinite, is what it is. Not permanent is the ban. It's indefinite, but we do have a process by which people can get back on Twitch and engage with the community.
Okay, Elder Goose, is there going to be more opportunities for partners to earn more, like the ad incentive program? That program went away as soon as I archived partner status.
Yeah, yes, the short answer is yes, and I'll say more specifically. But let's address the ad incentive program piece real quick. So what the ad incentive program was is basically paying streamers 55% at revenue share for hitting 3 minutes of ads. Now, we added a predictive component and said, well, based on how many hours we expect you to stream and how many ads we expect you'll run, you'll unlock this amount of earnings. Now, what we heard from streamers is there were kind of two things that weren't ideal about the ad incentive program. It resulted in limiting upside. So if your previous streaming months were 100 hours a month and you suddenly streamed 150 hours a month, you didn't unlock additional earnings for that going beyond that at the same rate. And then it also sometimes incentivized behavior that wasn't maybe healthy. Streamers felt like taking a break was hard and I'd miss out on the incentive, etc. So we went to a much simpler program that said, hey, hit X minutes, 3 minutes for most streamers, you unlock 55% at revenue share. Much more simple and didn't require this opt-in. We still provide the forecast and prediction of how much we think you'll earn if you run that, but it doesn't limit your upside. And again, it's intended to be the most flexible way to pay you the most amount of money. But your question was about new opportunities, and we talked about one of them, which is creator sponsorships. We really, really believe there is a lot more potential for brands that advertise on Twitch to also do influencer activations, creator sponsorship, channel takeovers, and all those fun things that you all love doing. And we're working very, very hard to bring more of those to streamers of all sizes, but also including partners. And then the other thing, we have some new monetization mechanics we're working on. We're consistently working on new monetization mechanics. Dan kind of talked about strategically, we think there's a really big opportunity to unlock more people paying smaller amounts. And we'll have more to say on that in the coming weeks. So yes, those are the main things, but creator sponsorships probably be the headline there.
Okay.
Oh, and let me expand that one more. Let me say one more point. Bounty board, because this has been a question for a while as well.
Yes.
Bounty board has previously been limited to a small set of streamers. With this new creator sponsorships and the sponsorships tab, we're moving what used to be called the bounty board into creator sponsorships. So you will start seeing things that may have been like a gameplay sponsorship, play a game for X hours, will now be in the sponsorship tab. And so the bounty board will go away. And so everybody that has access to the sponsorship tab will have access to bounties. And there won't be this, like, I have to get into the bounty board program. That program is gone and dead, and it's moving into creator sponsorships.
That's a great addition, because we did have a question from Thigihurguri, gosh, I hope I said that right, about reopening the bounty board. So no, you're not reopening the bounty board because the bounty board is becoming the new system that we now have launched. So everybody needs to actually jump into the new system.
Exactly.
Okay. That clears that up too. Thank you. This next question comes from Mighty Bone. Congrats on that username. What would define political content as hyper-partisan? You know, like if a streamer just doesn't agree with a political statement, is he partisan at that moment? Can you add a bit more context?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
Dan, you want to take
answer
that?
this. Yeah, I will. And when we make this separation, we'll provide a lot more context on that. It's not just expressing a view, but it's sort of how and the extent to which you're expressing it, and you're expressing it in a manner that extends for a period of time and is extremely strong in its perspective. And so that's something we're going to need to kind of be clear, because just expressing a view itself, particular perspective, but we all are familiar with shows that can be very leaning towards one side in a much more inflammatory manner. And those are the ones that advertisers would just rather not be associated with. It's not that you can't do it. It's just advertisers don't want to be associated with it. So to be clear, this is not trying to in any way stymie speech in any way whatsoever. It's just advertisers say, look, I don't want my brand appearing next to that strongly held position, which is a very reasonable thing for an advertiser to view, since they're here to try and create positive feelings towards their brand.
Okay, we're gonna change the subject slightly here to features. Vernie has asked, will we ever see multiple audio tracks on live streams, or the ability to rewind an actual live stream instead of clicking through the VOD? Any thoughts on those types of features?
Yeah,
Feature requests.
I will say we're looking at and working on the DVR capability. It's something I know a lot of streamers, a lot of people are interested in. In terms of multiple audio tracks that would usually be used for multiple languages, would be multiple audio tracks. That continues to be an area that we're trying to figure out what is the right way to do this in a scalable fashion. I do think it's very important in terms of both closed caption and translation. As opposed to multiple audio tracks, I suspect we'll go more towards leveraging a lot of the client-side capabilities that exist there. But multiple audio tracks is obviously a possibility too. I think this is an area where AI will be helpful in terms of being able to, bridge the divide some in terms of different languages.
Thanks for that. Tiago Vans TV, thanks for rating with 41 people. Appreciate you and everybody joining us. Our next question comes from Carrie. Your message about building affinity between a streamer and their community is something I'm passionate about. Any thoughts about bringing back moments, which were amazing, and the user voice had thousands of upvotes, especially considering the enforcement of storage limits? Maybe consider letting moments expire at the same time of the VOD, or thoughts of releasing stream streaks for everyone. So just more requests and thoughts about moments and stream streaks.
Streaks. Yeah, so two things. First of all, we are looking at expanding streaks. This is one of these things where there are a few things we got to do to make it better. There's been a little bit of shifting around in terms of different priorities, but we're looking at that. And in terms of moments, I know that's one thing I've talked to a ton of streamers about. And as we think about clips, really the way I think about clips is they capture a moment in the stream. I think there's clear affinity for moments. Unfortunately, when we built it, we sort of built it as a totally separate object and in a totally separate stack, which just wasn't the right way in the end to build that feature. But this idea of being able to say, I was there when this happened, I think is a really important idea. And as we start thinking about finding ways to get clips of the best moments and then having people, be able to identify that they were there, that's absolutely one of the ideas that we're trying to figure out how to bring back that idea.
All right, I'm going to burn through some of these as well. The Cool Mike Show, with TikTok potentially being removed for US, it's going to be harder for us to get more views. My question is, what is Twitch going to do to improve discoverability for everybody, when it's harder to get discovered on potentially on TikTok if it goes away?
Yeah, this is one thing I talk about a lot, and obviously we want streamers. We love having new streamers discovered. Um, there's a tension because it's not about Twitch versus TikTok for discovery. It's this trade-off between short form versus long form. Um, for many of you viewers, you spend 1, 2, 3 hours on a particular channel, watching that channel. And as I've often said, we design our site so that you can pull up a chair and stay for a while. And that is the very thing that makes community special on Twitch, because that sense of community comes from shared experiences over time. Other social media apps, you're a swipe away to more content, and people do it and they don't stay as while. But short form is really good for discovery. On TikTok, you might see 1,000 creators in a week or more. On Twitch, you might watch four to 10 or something like that. So it's certainly the case that our mobile app has helped with discovery. We've seen follows go up because of the feed. The Clips feed has been helpful in terms of that. It still doesn't fully solve this problem of a new streamer and how do they find an audience. We definitely have been investing a lot. I've often said the best place for discovery is on the channel page, and that comes with collaboration. It's one reason we've been investing in making it easy to collaborate. And I've had lots of streamers talk about how effective that is for them as they're trying to grow their audience. The reality is, whatever happens with TikTok, there are lots of short form social media platforms. And I know certain creators would love to say, but I just want to be on Twitch. The reality is some creators, they really love live streaming, but they don't like spending a lot of time editing short form videos because it's just not as much fun for them. I'll be honest, I fall into that category. I've often found myself where I can either stream or create some clips from a previous stream, and I always choose to stream because it's more fun for me. So that's one area where we just need to make it much, much easier for you to create short form content to help you with discovery. So there's a long way of saying I think discovery comes from many things. One is sharing content on third-party social media. Two is us continuing to enhance the experience on short-form content on our platform. Three is collaboration. And then four is us continuing to look at features like on the homepage and other things that help feature streamers. And we've done that a lot where we've promoted smaller streamers. They haven't worked as well as we had hoped, but we're going to continue looking at ways to help small and medium-sized streamers find a new audience.
Thanks. I think this also kind of helps answer a question from TTV Vash, which was like saying, is there a way you can continue to help the small streamers? I think everything that you said with discoverability is absolutely kept in mind with small streamers, and also rethinking affiliate criteria and things like that. It's a way to ensure that people, no matter what their size, feel like they can grow and establish themselves. So it's a mix between monetization opportunities and discovery, which we'll continue to invest in.
So one thing I'd
Ken,
say too,
go ahead, Dan.
hold on, let me jump in there. One thing that people often don't realize is just putting something on the homepage doesn't necessarily drive viewership to them in terms of on a shelf or something like that. I've often made this point, the fact that finding a stream you like, you really have to spend time on that stream and spend time getting to know that individual. And so we've done a ton of experiments where we just put smaller streamers on the homepage to try and drive discovery, and it doesn't increase their ACCV, especially if you look at the next day. It just isn't a very effective tool. The best tool is when that person is spending time with another streamer, so that way you see them over time. That's why I push collaboration so much. Finding a streamer you love is like finding a friend. It just takes time. And so it just doesn't work to just put someone on the homepage.
Yeah, I think that's true. We talk about that a lot when it comes to giving creators additional spotlights and opportunities. The best thing is growing your audience organically and authentically, and that definitely comes into light when you apply for partner. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. You can't sneak your way through it. You need to build an authentic community when you're applying for partner.
And let me mention one thing. Sorry about this. One other thing, we have done a lot to create a much more open and transparent process for the homepage carousel. We have an application process. We use the partner discords to announce that. We have partners regularly applying. And I think that has been very effective at ensuring we get a lot more people in the carousel lately.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And for anybody who's a partner who did not see it, although we've been putting out a lot of notifications, you want to join the partner Discord. The partner Discord will give you the opportunity to apply on a consistent basis for front page. And there actually was a question about that. So let me jump to it real quick. Burrito asked, are there any plans to rework the front page? The cooldown is too long for an 8-hour stream, considering it used to give you more front page time. Just genuinely asking. So Burrito, I looked into this. We can change this policy from time to time because we're looking into the best ways to make sure everybody gets opportunities on the front page. The most recent answer I found is we prioritize channels that have never had promotion, and the longer it's been since you've had front page, the greater your chances of are getting through. But even if you haven't gone through that cooldown, you can still apply. So I encourage you, Burrito, or any partner who's recently had front page and that's gone through, you can still apply. You can apply right now. They just put that into consideration to make sure that people who haven't had an opportunity recently maybe have a higher priority. But the most common cause for partners getting rejected for front page promo is supply and demand for slots. And I found some secrets, and because you're listening to the show, you can get them. Historically, we've seen 50% more applications in the first 2 weeks in the month than the second. So if you apply in the second 2 weeks, there's less people that you're competing with. And then the other interesting one is there's so much more demand for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So picking other dates and times gives you a higher likelihood of getting promo. So really good food for thought when you're applying for promo. It's about slotting people into the right spots. So I encourage you maybe to try to go for a slot Monday through Friday, and also maybe try when you're applying. If you tried at the beginning of the month, try maybe halfway through the month and see what happens. I hope that helps. But the TLDR to your question is that they're actually there isn't technically a cooldown anymore. You can apply anytime you want. We're just prioritizing people who haven't gotten it in a while. Ken Ryu BR asks, will Twitch improve platform to watch clips and VODs that we can engage with likes and comments? That's kind of YouTube coded, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, so we already have the ability to heart on stories and other things, but I really like the feature of comments on clips. I think it's an example of extending the community into there. I can tell you the model I often use is it'd be great if we get more and more clips and stories where your community sees them there, comments, shares, and then that helps us find the best ones for the clips feed as you have people that are not as deeply engaged with your channel. And then you can use that to figure out what were the best moments, especially as you think about what to share on third-party social media, where you might spend more time editing.
Thanks. I'm gonna try and burn through some of these last ones. Wanderling Spirit, will there be more moderation features for mobile soon?
Yeah, so as I said, we're getting Mod View out on Android, and that's the first priority right now, but we're constantly looking to help improve the moderation features on mobile. Obviously, that's really important. It's a lot easier for moderators. They spend a lot of time on a channel. They're moving around. They're going downstairs. They're going out. So I think that's something that's really important. And why don't I do this, Mary? There are a few questions I remember from reading chat that I want to go ahead and I'll see if I remember. And then I'll pick through some of the other ones we have here since we have a limited amount of time. So I know one question was, which happens a lot, was getting up to this question about thinking that we have AI bots that are processing reports and suspending people and processing appeals. Interestingly, we do not. They said you need to use people. People won't make mistakes. We do use people on all of those cases. It is the case that sometimes people make mistakes, unfortunately. It's something that I know I spend a lot of time thinking about and worrying about, and the team's looking at to try and help to ensure that that doesn't happen because it does impact people. But it is important to understand that we always do have people looking when somebody is an enforcement action is taken against them. And it's an interesting thought that, one thing for us to remember, people make mistakes, much like AI, which is which is a challenge. All right, let's see. There was one other one. I'm blanking on it now, so I'll take one from this list. Let me glance down here. So let's see. And I'll go to Mike. Are custom power-ups available for third-party developers at launch, and will they have the same model as bits and extensions in terms of the split?
Oh,
Mike,
are
we don't
you
hear you, Mike.
muted? I don't know if it's on you or if it's us. Are your AirPods dead?
I'll go ahead and jump in. Can we hear you, Mike?
Mike, we are still muted a little bit. Sorry, bud.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Mitten, you might have to sign out and sign back in.
Okay. So I think the correct answer, and Mike is the expert here, that when we first launch custom power-ups, probably not, but then we will look to see how we can help support developers in that. And because, of course, we still have bits and extensions, and we'll figure out how to work that in as we see the type of adoption and that sort of thing in that feature. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I know one of the questions that we had in here. The stream together function is difficult to troubleshoot offline, so collab streams are tainted by tech support. Can you make it so we can test this and add our camera links and test audio before? I'm a little confused by this comment because you actually can totally test it offline. You can set up a stream together call. You can be testing. I guess the issue comes up with just completely checking the links in OBS. Which I do know can be a little tricky. I can tell you what I do is in the past I have used a test account. I know a lot of people use a test account. I think really the issue here is to test it. It's more difficult when you're not live, but you can set up stream together without being live and make sure that your camera's working and all that sort of stuff. All right, let's see. There's a way to click on. I'm still looking. Can you change clips to be just a bit longer? 1 minute is not always enough. Yeah, Lawasoft, that's one of the things we're looking at to see if maybe extending them for the length of time or something like that might be useful. We don't want to make them super long because I do think, as you see with short form content, actually the length matters, but a little bit longer could be useful.
Another feature request was searching for a specific clip. Is there any thought into being able to search for a very specific clip, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. I think one of the challenges in all of this, there are these features that it's like, yes, I would love that feature. Each of these features take time, so I do think that would be a really good feature. It's not a feature that's going to get like gobs of usage. And so that's always the tension here. But I do think improving search is always important. So it's something that we're always kind of continually looking at. So one of the things, what about streamers who use bots to increase their view count? This is one thing we're always working on. In fact, we have some updates that I think we were either about to roll out or we'll be rolling out soon to try and detect more of those bots and then factor them out of your view count. Just so you know, it's something that the team is always working on. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. So it's the type of thing that as you catch some, they try something else, and we keep iterating on that. And so it is frustrating that we have to deal with it because in a perfect world we wouldn't. But believe me, we have a team that works fairly regularly in trying to deal with this and try and catch it and try and make sure it doesn't have the impact. Let's see.
A couple of them have gone viral recently too. And I just wanted to say a lot of the times there's like a virality to this where you'll see someone who view botted and got caught. And that one makes the waves. That view botting is a really big problem, but what you don't see is, the ones that get caught and are removed. So we are effective at finding it, but as Dan said, we just have to be careful with, you don't want to be accused of something you didn't do either.
Hey Dan, let me take. Can I take one of these?
Yeah, go ahead.
So get in there.
Fist of Walrus asks, why not allow the option to charge bits instead of channel points for rewards? Power-ups allow us to charge bits. We should have the option to charge bits for custom rewards as well. We agree. We're working on it. We'll have more to say on this in the coming weeks.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Thank you.
Here's one. Will the availability to blacklist specific users from shared chat be available? In chat bot automated messages destroys shared chat readability and interaction. I think the issue here you're talking about is really the bots that a streamer might have on their channel, because you can, if you ban someone from their channel, then they are not in shared chat. So if you have a bot that's a third-party bot that is spamming your channel, if you ban them, then they are not from either channel. They're not in shared chat. I think what you're talking about is sometimes the streamer has a lot of bots set up, and that's one thing we have to look at, because it is a fact that sometimes one streamer's bots and another streamer's bots can get a little overwhelming. All right, let's see. Seeing other ones on here. I'm just scrolling through to see if any.
Yeah, I have a couple. Just wanted to throw one from Pando Dev. Are custom power-ups available for third-party devs at launch? These are specific. Pando Dev usually specifically has dev-related questions. So just a question about custom power-ups for third-party developers.
I thought Dan answered this one, but I'll reiterate. Not at launch. Appreciate the input and the thought. We know there's third-party developers that rely on this, extensions-based monetization. So we'll look at that. We don't know specific plans to share today.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Okay. There are one of the challenges in this. There's so many questions and so many good questions that we don't get to all of them, and I know that can be challenging. Here's one: 1440 stream when. That's something we're going to be talking about before too long in terms of that coming out. Do we get AV1 encoding anytime soon? As part of enhanced broadcasting, we're rolling out HEVC along with 2K. We're starting with HEVC because the number of people that can support AV1 from a viewer perspective is much smaller. We'll eventually go to AV1, but our priority is HEVC because there's a bigger benefit to streamers. Let's see. The functionality around watching previously recorded content seems lacking. Are there ways to enhance it? The team's always looking at ways to enhance this. It's important to note that in general, VODs on our platform are used for catch-up. Like over 90% of the viewership of VODs occur within the first 24 hours. Always want to improve features in there, but we're pretty clear that we don't think we are trying to focus primarily on that, because the magic of Twitch is the community. And so VODs are important. We like to support VODs. Catch-up is important. And there's some small features we can do to make it better, but we're not going to make that a primary focus overall. Let's see. Will still allow Twitch streamers broadcast on other apps? The answer is yes. You can broadcast on simulcasting is not a problem. You can broadcast on other apps. We support it, and that is not a problem. Are we going to be able to have subcategories? For example, retro is an extremely broad category. It'd be great if we could select retro and then subcategorize the game. That is a useful feature. As you get into subcategorization, it sometimes splits things up too much and doesn't have the impact as much as you'd like. But that's one reason why we have hashtags there, tags, to try and help with that. All right, let's see. Angles, music streamed. So somebody asked, enhanced broadcasting is awesome. Has the team looked at using it for other functionality, alternate angles, multicam streams like Alveus live cams? I think it's an interesting idea. I don't think a ton of people would use it. And so in our short-term roadmap, that isn't the focus, but I think it's something we could look at over time. Let's see. So, Mike, here's one. My friend doesn't want to give tax info right away. Can they monetize to try it out before giving tax info?
You will be required to give tax info before monetization. There's a lot of requirements that maybe, are, let's say it this way, maybe in a perfect world, we might do it differently, but there are requirements that we have to comply with as it relates to, things like tax. And the other thing is we have to check which country you're in to make sure that we're allowed to allow you to monetize. So that is our plan, that you will be required to fill out tax information first.
Okay. Here's a question. Why the changes with the way clips work? Streamers used to be able to get the MP4 URL of the clip and play that in OBS for a Be Right Back clip screen. In the new way, they have to use iframe embedded window, which breaks this. So we hadn't directly exposed the MP4 URL, but users did find a way to grab it. So this wasn't intentional, and we're looking to see if this was sort of incidental when we made the update, and we're taking a look to see if there's a way we can make it easier for you to do this like you've been doing previously. Let's see. All right. It's 5:27, Mary, so I think there are a lot of questions here. But
You'll have to pick your favorites and call it at some point. Unfortunately, we can't get to them all, but there's, if there's any in particular you really want to answer, this is the time.
I was kind of scanning. I think we're ready to wrap up, Mary. I think we had a couple things we wanted to send off at the end. So, Mike, why don't we say right now, thank you for being here. It's been special.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed my time with Mary.
Thanks, Minton.
Okay,
we appreciate you.
The performance review process is done for the year. That's why Mike feels free to make that comment.
We appreciate your time, and it's great to just be able to have Minton on. He has a lot of insight, especially into monetization best practices and all the things that we're up to behind the scenes. So appreciate it. I'm sorry if we weren't able to get to all of your questions. I was amazed with how many questions we got this time. Sometimes we just get a huge influx of questions, and we get to as many as we can in the amount of time that we have. But we are getting out of time here. A couple things I just wanted to make sure we don't forget. We're 9 short weeks away from TwitchCon Europe. Dan, do you have your ticket?
I don't know. I'm going to see if they're going to let me in with a partner badge. Yeah. I'm hoping. I have my fingers crossed.
Yeah, we will see you in Rotterdam for TwitchCon in Europe. It's super exciting. We'll put a link in chat so that you can get tickets if you haven't gotten them yet. It's very exciting. We're also releasing some of the creators that have announced that they're going. It's pretty fun for you guys to see who's going to be there. And soon we'll also be releasing stuff like what content you're going to be able to see. We're working on that right now. And I'm telling you, it's a really good lineup and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to tell you more, but I can't yet. So I encourage you to start your planning process and come grab your tickets. The link is now pinned. The other thing that I think is really good just to check is upcoming things that you can watch on /Twitch and things we just don't want you to miss. One is Twitch Public Access. It's this Friday. So it's the 28th of March and it'll be at noon and we'll be talking about Women's History Month. We'll be talking about stuff that's happening next month that you won't want to miss. We have some awesome guests, so please check that out and follow this channel if you're not currently. The other one that's coming up pretty soon is St. Jude, which is April 17th. We have historically gone to St. Jude every year, as long as I've worked here, which is 8 years. And here's a bunch of our incredible creators who are at the St. Jude campus. They get to tour the campus. They get to meet a lot of the doctors and some of the patients and survivors. St. Jude has a historical precedence with Twitch where creators, many featured in this picture, raise money on Twitch for St. Jude, which is a hospital that accepts children who have cancer. And not only do they take on these children that have really difficult diseases that they have to beat and cure, but they also take in their families free of charge, and they help work with them. And St. Jude also shares all of the research that they use and they make in their facilities with everybody, so that they can try and basically prevent cancer from all children. So it's a wonderful organization. We love working with them. And Dan, this is going to be your first time that you've ever gone, and I'm really excited that you get to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know I was talking to the St. Jude's team, and last year I wanted to make it. It didn't work out in the schedule. So this year I made sure I reserved it long in advance. So I'll be there. We're going to have a gathering with streamers, and I'm really looking forward to spending time in the hospital and seeing all the great work they're doing. And I'm looking forward to all the creators I'll get to see when I'm there. And I'm sure I'll do some streaming. So.
Yes, Twitch will be streaming from St. Jude on the 17th. It's just a wonderful opportunity to showcase some incredible creators that do such good work for others, especially the children. I see Smirky in chat. Smirky's been raising money for St. Jude since as long as I can remember, and just a wonderful advocate. So we are so appreciative to every creator that goes live and raises money for a wonderful cause. Using your platform for good is just such a fantastic use of Twitch, and we see you. So we'll be at St. Jude in just a couple weeks, and we're really looking forward to sharing that magic with all of you. We will go live with some doctors and some incredible creators. It's a joy, and I cry every time. And I think that's it, Dan. Is there anything else that you want to say, or any other thoughts that you have as we round out this episode of Patch Notes?
Nope. Thanks for being here, Mary. Thanks everybody else for listening. We appreciate the questions. Be back in a month with more to talk about.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. Please don't forget to follow the channel so you can see us next time we go live. And we are going to raid Dynamite Twins, so enjoy them. We absolutely adore Dynamite Twins. They're so fun, and they're also a group of creators that always raise money for St. Jude, so very thoughtful. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.